don't know who I'm preaching to this morning. Somebody can shout right there that even if it doesn't bring you out, it doesn't mean he can't do it. The songwriter said, if he never does anything else, he's already done enough. If he never pays another one of my bills, I know he still supplies all my needs. If he never makes me feel better, I know that he'll make everything all right. If he never opens another door in my life, it's not because he can't do it. I know that he's able, but is he willing? The leper says, if you're willing, if you're willing, I know that you can. I know that you're able. I know that you have the power. And so he approaches Jesus, getting on his knees and imploring the master. And Jesus, the text says, Jesus was moved with compassion. Let me help somebody understand that we serve a God that is compassionate. We serve a God that is merciful. We serve a God that is long-suffering. We serve a God that is kind. We serve a God that will look beyond your faults and meet all of your needs. Have I got a half a witness there? We serve a God that loves you just as you are, but loves you enough not to leave you the same condition that you are in. Have I got a witness, church? We serve a God who so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but should have everlasting life. I listen at people on the news talk about their atheism and how they do not believe in God. And that if a God was so great and so powerful, how would he allow innocent people to be killed in the Boston bombings? And I say to those individuals, as if God needs a defense, it wasn't God's fault that they were bombed. It's our fault because sin came into the world as a result of man's depravity. And I came to tell you that God has the answer, and that the answer for sin is Jesus. And Jesus is loving and compassionate, that anybody that wants to have a relationship, he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And until America turns from sin and turns toward God, we're going to continue to see these things in the news. Until God's people raise up a standard for the Lord and lift up the word of God as the only standard whereby and where we live, we will continue to hear of rumors of wars and trouble in Congress and terrorism in the land. It's just going to get worse before it gets any better. But our job is not to defend God. Our job is to lift up God and to cause men to come to him. We serve a God that is compassionate. He is a God that does not worry about what people will say or do if he touches your life. For Jesus was not worried about what the religious people would say if he touched this leper, but he was willing and he was moved with compassion. He knew this man had a handicap, but Jesus was handicap accessible. And I want to suggest to you that Jesus is challenging our churches to become handicap accessible. And I'm not talking about wheelchairs and ramps. I'm not talking about special restrooms. But when I speak of handicap, I mean spiritual handicaps. And our church needs to become handicap accessible so that people on the street that are dealing with bitterness, anger, jealousy, addictions, trials, tribulation, sin, can come into the church and feel the love of Jesus the Christ. Have I got a witness? Y'all are quiet this morning because some people, when they come to church, they get turned off in church because we're not handicap accessible. We want to turn our nose up at people. We want to look down on people. We judge them by the way they are dressed, by what they drive, how they got here, what they smell like. But I came to tell you, it doesn't matter to Jesus if they have alcohol on their breath, if they smell like they haven't showered in a week. It doesn't matter to Jesus because he's handicap accessible. He specializes in dealing with the untouchables, with the unlovables, with people that you and I turn our noses at. He specializes in reaching way down and touching people's lives. And if anybody ought to know it, it ought to be us, because we just got straight just a few years ago. Oh, come on and hear somebody. And some of you just got straight last week. Come on and tell it like it is. And some of you still ain't straight yet. You're still sinning and grinning, dipping and dodging, peeping and hiding, slipping and sliding, throwing your rocks and hiding your hands. But yet you want people in the church to think that you're all that. The truth is you're handicapped yourself. And we need a Savior that is handicap accessible. I need a God that can deal with my mess. I need a God that will roll up his sleeves and get in the trenches with me. I need a God that will help me when I cannot help myself. This God is found in the Son of God, whose name is King Jesus, who was moved with compassion. The text says he stretched out his hand and did what most church folk will not do. He touched the leper. Immediately, if people were watching, they would say he's supposed to be a prophet. He would know that if he touches him, now he's unclean. But every now and then we have to get like Jesus and get delivered from what people think about us. I don't care what you say about me. I've got a job to do. I didn't come here to make no friends. I didn't move all the way across the country to please people. Man, I got a God to serve. I got a heaven to go to. I got a hell to avoid. I've got a charge to keep and a God to glorify. And I ain't come here to listen at what people have to say, because they're always going to have something to say. But he told me to touch those that need a touch. And that's what Jesus did. And he knew that it was risky business. See, when you touch the untouchable, people will talk about you. People will scandalize you. People will call you unclean. They'll say you're unholy. People will walk out of your life. But you've got to keep doing what he told you to do. Have I got a witness, church? Church is a risky business because we're dealing with stuff that the government doesn't even want to deal with. We're dealing with people that the world cannot fix. And I want you to know this is risky business, but we have a job to do to get people the touch that they need. Jesus said to the man who had leprosy, I will be thou cleansed. He spoke into his life. And I want to insert into this sermon that it really wasn't the touch, it was the word. Yeah, because we all know that Jesus didn't really have to touch anybody. He's fire all by himself. He could just speak the word and it would come to pass. But theologians suggest that he touched him so that it would be no mistake that it was Jesus that healed this man's body. Have I got a witness, church? And I came to tell somebody that some of us would give the credit to somebody else if it had not been for the Lord. Some of us credit the doctors as the reason why we're here. But I want you to know that doctor that you have, he or she is only practicing medicine. When you look at the license on their wall, it says licensed by the state of Michigan to practice. Don't you know they're just practicing on you? They don't really know everything they need to know. They got to get on the internet and look just like you. They can't remember everything in 8 years of school. They're just practicing. But we have a great physician that don't need no practice. He don't need to take no tests. He doesn't need to go to school because he knows your body. He knows your heart. He knows your mind. And he's able to fix what is broken. He's able to clean what is dirty. He's able to pick up what has been torn down. Do you not know that he's an able God? Jesus said, I'm willing, be thou clean. He told the man strictly, do not tell anybody. Do not say anything to anyone, but go your way and show yourself to the priest. This would give him an opportunity to fulfill the law of the land. And so that the priest would understand that it was Jesus who did this, but that Jesus believes in the law of Moses and the father of Abraham. But this man did something that most of us would have done as well. This man must have been a member of Galilee Baptist Church, because it doesn't say, it says here that regardless of what Jesus said, he did what he wanted to do. He was so excited, he was so glad that he had been cleansed that he did not follow the instructions. Jesus said, now don't you tell a soul, but just go to the priest and show yourself so he can declare you to be clean. And that's just like some of us. You know how sister so-and-so comes to you and she's got a piece of news for you. She'll say, now I'm going to tell you this, but please don't tell nobody else. This is confidential information. Don't tell a soul. And they'll tell you, and as soon as she hangs up, you're going to get on the phone. Come on, somebody. And say, child, you just won't believe what I just, but don't tell nobody, because I told her I wasn't going to tell nobody, but I had to tell somebody. Have I got a witness, church? And that's how stuff gets started in the church, because we cannot keep it to ourselves. You know how it is when you have that hot gossip, that juicy news, that you just can't sit on it. You have to tell somebody else. Well, I want you to know that if we act like that with hot news, why don't we act like that with good news? Have I got a witness, church? The Bible says that this man didn't follow the instructions. Jesus said, don't say a word. Don't tell a soul. Keep it to yourself. And if you ever want to get something out, just tell them, shh, don't tell anybody. It's a secret. And you know, I've been here 18 months now, and I've learned just who to give it to. I call them my pigeon saints. Yes, I got pigeons in the church. And if I really want to get some news out, I say, shh, don't tell nobody. Just keep it to yourself. And by next Sunday, it's all over the church. And God told me to tell you that this man was a pigeon saint. He could not keep it to himself, because when he looked at his hands, they once were spotty, but his hands look new.